this is Mr. Ward, and this is Algebra Do Now 29.3 for A block, and let's go. So now I'm giving you a quadratic that's got a lead coefficient that's not 1. So this gets a little more complicated, but it's completely doable. So we're going to consider this, and we're going to do this in little stages. So first, if we multiplied the 2 from the 2n squared times the 2 here, we get 4. Now, what I want to know is what factors of 4 would add up to 5 from the 5n. So let's set up our little x thingy. Okay, and so we're going to have 2 times 2 gets us 4. And we want to get the factors of 4 that add up to 5. Well, 2 plus 2 certainly doesn't work. Those are factors of 4, but 1 times 4 would do the job. 1 times 4 is certainly 4, and 1 plus 4 is certainly 5. But we can't just say x or n and n over here. It's a little more complicated, but let's go ahead and make that note that 1 and 4 work, or 4 and 1 work. I'll just do that in the same order. The next thing is going to say 4 and 1 work. So if you had said 4 and 1, then that does work. Now we're going to split up 5n into 4n and 1n. So here 5n became 4n and 1n. We kept the 2n squared and we kept the 2. But now I'm going to group these two parts. We're going to group the 2n plus 4n. We'll group the 1n plus 2. And our job is to come up with the largest factors that we can pull out of each of these. So I'm going to pull out from this one. I can definitely pull out a 2. And then I can pull out an n from each one of these. And I'll be left with n plus 2. Now, over here, not really anything but a 1 that I can pull out, so I'll pull out a 1. And then I'll have an n plus 2. And look at that. We have the same factor here and here, which means we can actually apply the distributive property. So that means we can say, we can take, why is it not? I see. This one has a little bit of a glitch to it. I'll have to fix that. So we have now, we can break this, we can take this and this, since this is the distributive property, we can say, in parentheses, n plus 2, and then we can multiply that times the sum of these things, 2n plus 1. And if we were to multiply that all out, you would end up with our original deal right here. 2n plus 5n, 2n squared plus 5n plus 2. Let's prove it. I'll go ahead and do it over here. So n times 2n will be 2n squared. And then n times 1 will be plus n. And then 2 times 2n will be plus 4n. And then 2 times 1 will be plus 2. These two things can become a 5n. And if we look up here, that's what we had. 2n squared plus 5n plus 2. Neat. Now, let's look at this. We got the situation here where we got 3n squared minus 8n plus 4. And we want to consider the 3 and the 4 here. And we multiply those together, we get 12. Now, we want to know what factors of 12 would add up to negative 8. So let's set this up with our nice little x here. Put a multiplication here and a sum here. Now my multiplication comes from 3 times 4 and gets me to 14. So 12 to 12. Sorry about that. Sleepy moment. Now I've got 12. I need to get a negative 8 from that. So 12 can be broken into two negative factors. So they're going to have to both be negative. All right, so what are two negative factors of 12 that add up to 8? Well, it's negative 6 and negative 2 would do it. So I'm going to say negative 2 and negative 6. So there we go. Negative 2 and negative 6. Now, or we could say negative 6 and negative 2. Either way, it works. Now, if you did say negative 6 and negative 2, that's great. Now we're going to split up this negative 8n into a negative 6n and a negative 2n, because this is going to help us come up with factors for that overall polynomial. So I've got 3n squared minus 6n minus 2n plus 4. And I group the 3n squared and the minus 6n. And I group the negative 2n and the plus 4. And let's go ahead and see what the largest common factor is that I can pull out of each one of these. So the largest common factor I can pull out of this, there's definitely a 3. And I can also pull an n because they both share a factor of n. So now I'm going to be left here with just n. And here I'm going to be left with 2. Okay, now over here, I've got a negative 2 that I could factor out of both of these. So I'm going to do that, negative 2. And I'm going to be left with n. Negative 2 from a 4 is going to be minus 2. And look at that. We've got the same factor here and the same factor here. That means that we can use the distributive property, n minus 2. And then that's going to be times 3n minus 2. And those are the factors of this. We could multiply it out, of course. Let's do that. N times 3n will be 3n squared. And then n times negative 2 will be negative 2m. And then negative 2 times 3n will be negative 6n. And then negative 2 times negative 2 will be plus 4. Okay, and we can put these two together, and we'll end up with a negative 8n. So 3n squared. And then negative 2n minus 6n will be negative 8n. And then plus 4. That's a terrible n. And you're done. I hope that helped.